Welcome to Shakti Verse, and I'm your host Sonali Singh here with another book club, Pussy a Reclamation. Yes, you heard it right, Pussy. And today, while we are talking about Pussy, how can we not talk about Goddess? So, today would be starting with talking about Goddess. And a lot of us have tried to find that goddess, outside in temples, in different places, maybe in people also, in some guru, in some Mahatma, in some shrine. And we might have found it and we might have again lost it. So, all I'll be reading the author's journey, similar journey that author went through. And finally, after all these years, I had been looking for the goddess. Suddenly, I had stumbled upon her in the last place I would ever think to look. She was here, inside of me. I was overcome with the experience of radiance that had been inside of me all these years, but which I had never known how to access. I was the promise of womanhood that had come for me all those years ago. As I lay in my little girl bed, lashes scraping the pillowcase. She wasn't in a church temple, the Holy Land. She was here in me, released from bondage by my decision to create pleasure for myself. And that's why pleasure is so powerful. And I knew instantly that here, right here, was my mission to draw women's attention to her within themselves, to help each woman locate herself as the source of power and love and acceptance that we all long for. And this is such a motto of Shakti verse altogether. That old golden buttery caramel feeling continued to inhabit me and to grow as I lay on my bed. It stroked my body. I was delighted by how much pleasure I was able to experience by simply touching myself. I tried different strokes from very light and delicate to very heavy and deep. I touched every part of me, exploring the pleasures of my throat, my neck, the delicate skin on the inside of my arm that yearned for a light, airy touch. How running my fingers over my lips caused an electrical current to run through my whole body, giving me delicious chills. I touched my pubic hair, my belly, my sweet pink nippled breasts, admiring the beauty and responsiveness of my body. I was overwhelmed and so delighted with the feeling. I was a wonderland, and I had never known. I was instantly committed to teaching women what I had just discovered. I knew that in this place lay the connection between the goddess and the body. Sensuality was the portal for the divine feminine, and that's so fucking true. Sensuality is the portal to the divine feminine. I was embodying the experience of the goddess who had come to me when I was a little girl. I just knew deep in that eternal place of knowing that this was the way. So, and no wonder just before this class, I wrote a class topic that I wanted to conduct. It was sensual women. And I was like, what do I name it? Sensual women or sensual feminine? And here it is. Thank you. I had no idea that goddess was me. She was in me, created by me, and had always been inside me. I thought I would find her in one of the churches, the temples, the shrines I had visited. I thought she was somewhere out there. I never ever suspected that she was right here all along, casting this spell of rapture. The experience of one's own divinity is not an intellectual occurrence. It is not something someone else can give you. It is a bodily experience that for a woman is activated when she is turned on. Turn on happens when she takes pleasure from her body. which is an experience that women have been taught to avoid for the last 5,000 years. We have been held hostage by a patriarchal culture that devalues turn on and use women's erotic brilliance in service to the masculine. Yet the erotic is where a woman's confidence lives. And this is so beautiful to see how sensuality is is embodiment of confidence that comes through feminine. You might see a very confident masculine, but when you see a woman being very confident in her sensuality, it's that pull. When you see a man very confident in masculinity, it's a push energy in some ways. You find it very easy to, the man is kind of a ruler and leader and blah, blah, blah. But when you see a feminine energy in sensuality, it it exhibits confidence, and at the same time, it is also very pulling in nature. It just draws and, it just casts a spell and everybody is all in. Yet the erotic is where a woman's confidence lies, where her power is sourced, where she connects to her deepest feelings and longings. I now know that it all takes to experience the goddess, the melting point between the human and the divine, is to cast a spell of rapture. What is turn on? It is inevitable every year. Some wonderful woman gets on the microphone with a furrowed brow, ask me what this turn on actually means. Does it mean you are down to fuck every second of every single day? Does it mean you have to wear low cut tops and short skirts all the time? What this means, first of all, is that this woman has not yet experienced the kind of turn on I'm talking about. If you know this turn on from the inside out, you would know it is not tied to any external behaviors or circumstances. It is a state of being on the inside. It might inspire you to dress more sexy because it puts you in more approval of your body. It might inspire you to flirt with people because it feels so good that you want to pass it along. But to avoid any confusion at all, here is a short explanation of what turn on does and does not mean. Turn on does not mean, welcome! Finally, you have shown me your face, goddess. How are you doing, my love?
Awesome. थोड़ी देर पहले रो लिया तो अभी थोड़ा फील गुड हो रहा है
When a goddess cries,
Yeah.
अलग ही टर्न ऑन होता है वो भी.
Yes, true.
ये आंसू नहीं मोती है. Thank you for sharing. तुझे मुझे कॉल करना था, you didn't call me, शालिनी.
God,
Huh?
just got caught up in the course. Just got caught up in the course. I had to ask you something. We'll ping you tomorrow if you're free.
You
Or
wanna,
today, whenever you're free, just let me know.
okay, you wanna ask here
Yeah,
or
it was
separately?
not related to the course. No, separately.
I see your body a little happy today. How does it get better than that? And what else is possible? And I've been getting a lot of after we talked yesterday, there has been a lot of awarenesses and downloads in my world. And it's so beautiful. Thank you. It was lovely holding that space for you and listening to you.
And you know what? yesterday I spoke to you after that. It's been like an upgrade for me. There was a class I wanted to actually I had taken the class, all the requisites were done, and the last class, which was a requisite for a certification, no, so वो delayed priority. I took the class. Then also I was being very lazy. Somehow, even when I was, being posed on applying for the certificate. And today, when I applied for the certificate, the prices were whatever was showing on the website. The prices were different. They had raised the price after November, but after the mid-October, the prices were different. And then I came to know there were two certifications, and which I was not even aware of. Then suddenly some awareness came to me. I just asked the lady who was telling me, I was like, what's the difference between the two of them? And then she explained me. And then today I could dare, I was daring enough to ask for, that, what do you say? There were two versions of the same certification. I asked for the certification which was creating greater, and got it.
How does it get better than that? Celebrating with
I
you.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be seven steps teacher, fourth teacher from India.
Wow, how cool is that? I'm so happy for you. How does it get better than this?
Yeah, how does it get better than this? Thank you.
Thank you. Hmm. Wow. But don't stop. Keep choosing greater. Keep choosing. So,
Yeah.
and after your call, I also had gotten into another call. Um, and very not similarly, but I actually had an intergenerational trauma healing session with you. We kind of mapped the trauma, but with another person, I had to. We were in the space where we were dealing with that trauma bond. And this client was a 28-year-old girl who was basically with her partner. And she wasn't able to get into marriage because somewhere she felt that, she will lose her by death or something. And it was so um, interesting to find out that, and the way, these trauma bonds are so strong, and it's somewhere in the cellular memory of ours because we kind of also pass it on to generations. So there had been a lot of bonds, and we were working on one by one. And I saw that finally, the very, very strong relationship between her and her grandmother, where her grandmother actually could not survive any relationship. She kind of lost her husband for some or the other thing. And then her mother also kind of had a stable relationship, but a lot of, you know, the entity of grandmother is gone. But the way they talk about it, she was so much more alive and she was so much more present. And how that entire scenario has been so much played out that now this girl has um, created this fear of losing the man of her life, and she was in relationship for 11 years, like almost when she was 17 maybe. And then also getting into marriage or in a commit, like, moving further was so difficult, and it has been difficult for so long, and she's in on the age of marriage, like on the time where she wants to get married also. Um, so, this journey with intergenerational trauma is, and the trauma that we buy in from our ancestors, from our mothers, from our fathers, um, and how her mother has passed it on to her, and how she also is building
Absolutely.
similar relationship and similar um, um, fears in her life. And through this entire session, we kept on working with something. It was so hard to give that entity a name, because what trauma also, what this kind of uh, trauma also, that story was so merged in each and every character that you would not be able to identify that, okay, this is it, because no matter where you go, it is merged, it's embodied in some ways. And then finally we were in session for more than an hour, and finally um, just witnessing the release of something which has been held for generations is so empowering. And I felt like with her, I also released something, it just felt like, wow. And even when I'm talking it, all of this intensity is showing coming up. Um, but embarking on this journey takes courage. But the moment you step on it and you feel it, your life changes 360-degree. And then from, now you can see fear, now you can release it, now you can talk to fear and move through it. And now you can see, okay, in this relationship or in this marriage, now now what's showing up, now how am I dealing with it, and then something else can come up, and then you can work on that. But these strong bonds require a very trauma informed approach. A lot of times you would feel that ek jhatke mein sab chala gaya, but then it doesn't go, because it's in that level that it generates and comes back. So it was kind of a very, like, intense but happy space for me to see this, witnessing. And when I talked to you, I was like, okay, I have I've resolved this equation somewhere. I'm like, okay, fine, everything is working out, everything is happening at its own pace. Yes, Shalini.
I have two questions. Maybe it's not related to the book club regarding the talk. I mean, the whole conversation you just had. Uh, with special children and ADHD children, is there a possibility of is there a possibility that if the trauma has been passed through the womb of the mother to the child, and that child has developed special needs, ADHD, and whatever you call it,
It is
whatever we name it.
it is a possibility. It is not
So do you think with womb healing it can?
It is not conclusive, but it is a possibility, because womb is somewhere we store a lot of fear and pain.
Mhm.
So, and like, this mother child connection is extremely strong there. You really pass on a hell lot that you can imagine. So, womb healing, I had my womb healing session with my mother itself, and I know that the potency of it is extremely strong. So, yeah, I'm sure it would definitely
One of
help.
my jethani, she has a child with special needs, and when she had conceived that child, she was overworking, overexerting herself, and she was mentally also exhausted. She was physically overexhausted, and her pregnancy was not really, otherwise medically everything was fit and fine, but she was going through a lot of verbal abuse and all of that space. So I get that, and she's gone through all sorts of therapies. There's a regular therapist for that child, but and she has herself educated in special education. She's a PhD in that, and she's a principal of a special needs school, but she's not able, and sometimes when she shares me in that we have that bond, and she shares, and I'm like, so uh, I wish, like, this womb healing can help her, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But we cannot
Can
conclude it, but follow your awareness. If you're getting it, then, go for it. So what I'm trying to say, it's not a direct equation. You cannot always conclude this with that. But in this scenario, if you are having that awareness, follow that.
thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Nisha. Welcome, Vineet.
Thank you so much, Sonali.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
कुछ तो बात करी थी मैं भूल गई. Turn on doesn't mean you feel like having sex all the time. Your pussy is drippy all the time. You're obsessively thinking about your pussy or sex all the time. You have to dress in anyone else's definition of sexy. Turn on does mean you feel a sense of your own aliveness and your own life force. You know that your spirit and your body are one. Your native enthusiasm is intact. Your ability to reach for pleasure is on, especially when it seems difficult. You are in right mind and your highest power. You are you, full, complete, and whole. I'll repeat that again and see how many pointers can you match. Turn on does mean you feel a sense of your own aliveness and your own life force. You know that your spirit and your body are one. Your native enthusiasm is intact. Your ability to reach for pleasure is on, especially when it seems difficult. You are in your right mind and your highest power. You are you, full, complete, and whole. Everything that doesn't allow you to know, be, perceive, and receive, and be that right and wrong, good and bad, pod, profiling, shots, poised, pivots, and beyonds. The sensation called rapture lives inside every woman. Rapture is the experience of divinity felt in your body. Your life force or spirit inhabits every cell of you. You're plugged into the great pussy in the sky, what I like to call your GPS. It is the same as that feeling of divinity I felt when the goddess came to me as a child. When you feel rapture, you get turned on and become radiant as a result. I will use the words rapture, turn on, and radiance interchangeably throughout this book because they all point to the same experience. It's the experience at the heart of everything I do. Rapture itself is hard to describe. To feel rapture, you must be turned on. So you will see there is an overlap. Like all things feminine, it largely defies language. It is an experience, a feeling that comes from being taken inside the mystery of life itself. But perhaps I can give you an experience of it right now. First, stand still. Now read carefully as I shower you with words. Let them hit you like raindrops. Let them transport you the way the slant of a sunbeam sometimes can. Here you are. Joy. With every word, just let that energy sink in your body. Swooning from self acceptance, self love, self celebration, freedom. You are a line of perfect poetry. There is beauty everywhere in you. You are magic. No right, no wrong, no shame. You are cute just now. The unbearable, magnificent, fleeting gift of this moment. Ecstasy for no reason. The sparkling collision of death, of life, of rebirth. You are love. Rapture is having all of these feelings about yourself. There is no right or wrong sunset. Each is just a different experience of overwhelming, drop to your knees beauty. Every single night, rapture is unique to you. It is the feeling of the goddess in your body. But do not fear if these paltry words fail to open the portal and take you there. It is no surprise if you're not familiar with the feeling of rapture if we have no access to this sensation in our culture. As children, we are all, myself included, taught to fear and disparage the experiences that bring us there. Experiences like self pleasure, which is often presented as wrong or defiling, or experimenting and exploring sensuality with other children, which is considered aberrant. Rapture is the space when you know the perfection of your being, that it is a privilege to be a woman. It's a privilege to be a woman, to be alive, to be given the gift of feeling pleasure with your body. And it's a privilege to be a man. In order to feel it, you have to be willing to turn on. And most of us have been taught to run from the feeling of turn on as if it were the devil. So many have had the connection broken, as I did, by abuse or violence. Others sacrifice their turn on to self doubt or aging or humiliation. Whatever the reason, most of us stopped looking for the light switch a long time ago. A flash of pussy. But it has not always been that way. There was a day, there was a time, there was a place when the light switch of a woman's turn on was sought after. It was prioritized, highly prized, even revered. Across cultures spanning centuries over thousands of years. Let me weave a tale of a pilgrimage, an initiation, a rite of passage referred to as Eleusinian mysteries. It started with the goddess Demeter, who was bereft and heartbroken because her beloved daughter Persephone was missing and presumed dead. The magnificently beautiful Persephone had been abducted by Hades, who wanted her for this his bride. Zeus sanctioned the union, a betrayal that hurt Demeter further. She was so deeply stricken at the loss of her daughter that she wandered the earth in a state of deep depression and bottomless grief. This was problematic for the earth. A Demeter was a goddess of fertility and harvest. In her grief, she had withdrawn her light, and the earth was slowly dying. Demeter did not care. She gave up being a goddess and became a mortal, wandering the road from Athens to Eleusis, looking for her abducted daughter. Demeter swore that the earth would remain barren until her daughter was returned to her. She took refuge in Eleusis, disguised as an old woman. The two young daughters of the city's ruler took her in, and she met their mother. Being surrounded by this happy domestic scene brought the pain of her loss to an even more intense level. She became so depressed, she was almost catatonic, unable and unwilling to speak. Everyone tried to cheer up their guest, but with no success. Until a goddess called Baubo, disguised as a servant woman in the house, got Demeter to smile by telling her risk jokes. Then Baubo lifted her skirts and flashed her pussy at the Demeter. Demeter broke into laughter and was enlightened. She turned light and life to the planet, became a goddess again. And the same story I've read in the book, this Women Who Run with the Wolves. And it starts with, there was this goddess Baubo who was this very interesting figure. थोड़ा सा उसको डिस्क्रिप्शन अलग कर रखा है. that kind of her, like her boobs were hanging out and her boobs had eyes to it. And her pussy had mouth. Like, she was this very out loud, um, beautiful and different weirdo creature. And she was all out with her sensuality. At the same time, she was this, and when this goddess became very sad, depressed, she was sitting beside a well, just well se take leke, and she was very sad. And this goddess Baubu comes in front of her and starts dancing and flashing her pussy and started talking from her breast. And it just was so funny that she burst into laughter. So I think it's a very, it's a beautiful story that how how and I read similar stories like this where how um this this really, we have always heard these jokes about sexual activities, pussy and all of boobs, um, in a very hush hush, or very also in a way where it was joked amongst men, about women. But how these kind of stories actually uh, also reclaimed their own body parts and laughed out at it and played with it and um, mm, just not taking it also that too seriously and having fun with it. And there was a similar joke in the woman with Run with the Wolves, and where they were, it's a sunny morning and there are women lying down on the grass and just talking, and it's a picnic kind of a mahal. And then um, one of the lady says, why I don't think I'll be able to do justice to that joke. I'm not getting it, but I'll remind myself and share it again because it's really funny. It's about penis. Demeter swung into action and demanded Zeus deliver her daughter from Hades. For 2000 years, in celebration of the moment of enlightenment and return of the light and life to the earth, initiates would make the pilgrimage from Athens to Eleusis. There, this outrageous pussy flashing scene was reenacted. There is very little known about this initiation, since the people who made the pilgrimage were sworn to seek gracie. But it was said that when they returned from the initiation, they no longer had a fear of death. They knew their own immortality and divinity. Just as Demeter was restored to life by the flash of a pussy, so there were the initiates. The Eleusinian mysteries make up only one of the several ancient legends of how the flash of a pussy brought enlightenment to the earth, restoring life to the planet. Yes, I know, I was shocked too. For 30,000 years prior to the emergence of Christianity, our ancestors knew that pussy was a magical weapon. As Rufus Campbellson writes in the Yoni sacred symbol of female creative power, the symbol of pussy was protective and healing, able to avert evil and give power. Pussy was source. For most women today, the natural set point is not this degree of pussy radiance. Our set point is stress, self-doubt, self-hatred. It's comparing ourselves with others and coming up short. What's normal for a woman in our culture is to inhabit inadequacy, not divinity. So the question is this: how do we access the fullness of rapture that is your birthright? And somebody asked me the question how to tap into our sensuality. Enter pussy. Taking back the word. Why do you have to use that word? I hear this from women all the time. Pretty much as soon as I pull out the P word, someone gets up in arms. So before we go any further, I have to present the case for the word pussy itself. If you get a rather unfriendly feeling when the word appears, I'm not at all surprised. You are very likely in the majority. To those of us growing up in a patriarchal culture, pussies themselves are terrifying. They're desired and defiled in equal measure. They are powerful, messy, mysterious, and unknown. We are warned that pussies are what men want from us, as a receptacle for their cocks. Yet at the same time, we are taught that they are utterly disgusting. They bleed, they push out babies, they have orgasms in capricious and unpredictable ways. We are told they smell funny, and we are sold endless products to rid ourselves of their pesky fragrance. They're often considered ugly and in need of grooming in order to be presentable. We women shy away from them, and our men do not understand them. Having a pussy in this culture is way worse than being called one. So when someone, I don't know, perhaps Moi, casually drops the P bomb, it results in historical and experiential reverb that is much louder than the word itself. There is no doubt that pussy is weighty. She has a ton of baggage. And yet, she is the only word for me. My life's work is a reclamation of that which has been defiled, starting with pussy. There is no woman alive who has not had her pussy defiled of discriminated against. And other women, I just felt so scared of touching my own pussy, you know. I just felt like this is somewhere I don't have to go, and um it just felt very weird. And what body parts are you just feel so scared touching and having that intimacy with it? You can't go deep, you can just be around with it comfortably and look at it and spend time with it and see it and adore it, um, and explore it. There is no woman alive who has not had her pussy defiled or discriminated against in some way. Belittlement, gender discrimination, rape, molestation, income equality, the necessity for the title IX title. When a certain kind of unaware, bigoted man says the word pussy, as in, I gotta get me some pussy, we know we are in trouble. We know we are at risk of being victimized by the unconscious masculine, which does not have our best interest at heart. We also know any offer he might make will probably turn into a physical and emotional mess. And yet, we know we may find ourselves saying yes to it anyway. For like so many women, we think we're obliged to say yes. Many women have spent their lives watching their moms, grandmoms, aunts, friends choicelessly support a legacy of submission. Many women have been taught since childhood that they are an object existing solely for the enjoyment of men. This kind of man is looking at women as receptacles created for his use, not as full, equal human beings with thoughts and responses that might be different from his unconscious assumptions. Pussy is rarely used in celebration or support of our womanhood. We may be called a pussy as an insult or a jibe. If we hesitate too long, feel fearful, or appear too slow, we get the P word hurled in our direction. The insult might even come from one of our own. We women have ourselves internalized the dominant culture's viewpoint that pussy is a proper insult. And how about the rampant use of the word fuck to describe the worst possible outcome in any situation? You are fucked. He fucked her over. I'm so fucked. Fuck you. Such invectives are not referring to the person with the cock, my dears. Make no mistake. Those insults are motherfucking pussy centric. So why choose a word that is so weighted, so heavy, and so rife with strife to describe the star of our show? I mean, there are many so sweeter, gentler words. We could use the word vagina, for example, except that it's physiologically incomplete. Physiologically, you will have to say it vulva. The word vagina means sheath, the thing a sword goes into. It refers only to the muscular tube leading from the external genitals to the cervix of the uterus. So the word vagina leaves out all the exterior genitalia, the outer lips, inner lips, introitus, and clitoris. Calling a pussy a vagina is kind of calling a penis a scrotum. It's only part of the picture. As such, it is both wrong and misleading, which is familiar experience for pussy. She is being called so many wrong and misleading things. What more, and at the risk of being incendiary, I have found that women who use the word vagina are often not on very good terms with the part they're describing. Vagina is like using the formal voice, like calling a woman madam. It's not user friendly, it does not speak of intimacy. So, what should we call it? Lots of people are using the word yoni these days. Personally, I'm not a fan. Yoni is a Hindu word whose root is Sanskrit. I'm not Hindu, so it feels kind of affected to me. How about cunt? It feels too harsh, even though the etymology of the word is pretty impressive. The word cuneiform, which is the cuneiform, which is an ancient form of writing, derives from kunta, which translates to female genitalia. In ancient Sumerian, kunta means women in several Near Eastern and African languages, and its alternate spelling kuna is the root of the word queen. Kunta is also the root of kundalini, which means life force. Pretty powerful, huh? The word vulva is kind of cool because it actually refers precisely to the exterior genitalia. It is, in fact, the correct anatomical word when you are talking about the outer and inner lips, clitoris, and introitus. But the word itself has no swing. Vulva, it kind of sounds like Volvo, a safe but very unstylish car. Whereas something wonderful happens when a woman say the word pussy. Try it now. Whisper it to yourself or say it out loud. Really, not kidding here. We all are researching together. Give it a try. Pussy. We did this in our orgasmic awakening class. For the fun of it, we were just shouting out loud, pussy, 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 pussy. That was such a powerful one. They're seeing what I mean. When a woman actually says the word pussy, she smiles or laughs or catches a fit of giggles. She feels naughty in the best way. Rebellious as a kid sneaking into the cookie jar. For some reason, speaking the word itself is a ticket to the secret conspiracy of some kind of delightful inner knowing, like a secret handshake or membership in a clandestine sisterhood with the map to buried treasure. We women intuitively get that when we relate to the word that has so long been banished to the obscene and pornographic. When we are speaking the word, the weighty reverb swings toward us rather than against us. The baggage turns into proud history. Then there is immediate feeling of reclamation, which is the first step towards actual reclamation. So, dear reader, pussy it is. So we are going to be finishing this chapter today. Rapture is your birthright. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The phrase describes examples of the unalienable rights that the Declaration of Independence says have been given to all human beings by their Creator, and which governments are created to protect. For a woman, the pursuit of happiness must include her experience of rapture. And only way to truly connect with female body's capacity to feel rapture is through her pussy. When a woman owns her pussy, she learns about her body, her innate sensual potential, and her creative capacity. This is not pornographic pussy I'm talking about. This is pussy, pure and simple. Undomesticated pussy, humble, glorious, knowing her place in the world, no doubts. Native, indeed, genius pussy, human pussy. See, when a woman is in a state of rapture, she's standing in her power. She's able to feel the full rage of her emotions and to stop teetering in that nasty neighborhood of diminishment and doubt. She can feel her wingspan, which is unusual for a woman in a patriarchal culture. Growing up in this male dominated world, women use about 6 out of 88 keys on our piano. Sugar and spice and everything nice is what we get to be. But what happens to a woman's rage, her passion, her lust? Those ivories never get tickled. And through this rampant neglect, they get really out of tune. Sometimes exterior circumstances can fire up a few extra keys, like when her heart burst open in the sight of a sunset or at the birth of her child. Another few keys might get struck if she is transported by the fun of sports or dance or music moving through her. But the only thing that offers a woman the full range of her pleasure is the experience of rapture in her own body. Our bodies were built for pleasure. Our bodies were built for pleasure. How do I know this? Because function follows form. Why else would we have an organ that packs 8,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure with no other discernible function? And talking about the crown jewel of the pussy, our teacher, our leader, our girl guide, the one who brings us home and expands us to our full range, the clitoris. When engaged, this little bundle of flesh awakens our dead places, ameliorates our self doubt, connects us to our divinity, and replaces our stress with simple joy. Men have no such organ. They have about 4,000 nerve endings on what is essentially a multi tool. Just as the purpose of your eyes is to see and the purpose of your ears, welcome, Umesh, darling. To hear, the purpose of your clitoris is to teach you that rapture is your birthright. You don't have to rely on a sunset, a dance break, or a man. Your body is capable of experiencing ecstasy anytime you wish. And if you haven't yet experienced ecstasy or you want to expand your capacity to pleasure, the first step to it is join our orgasmic awakening program, and you will have the ecstasy of a lifetime. And portal to divine feminine. 8,000 never endings teach a woman freedom, self reliance, and an experience of her purpose in life. And more than orgasmic awakening, it's very much about stepping into their power. The moment you expand your capacity to pleasure and you automatically step into your power in this confident, sensual woman who knows what she wants and who can pull what she wants from this entire universe. And the entire universe, the very side effect of this program is that you would feel that and you would experience um, being in a very privileged position and at the advantage. And all my wild women's participants have shown their hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That everything will come drawn towards you. It expands your capacity to receive. I through just this work, I believe I have expanded my capacity to receive when it comes to love, abundance, money. Like I almost have, um, if I talk about monthly, I've almost moved 10 times in my um, receiving with money. And because your capacity to experience pleasure somewhere also let universe know that, okay, this is how much you can experience the joy, the liveliness, that the radiance, that exuberance, and the enthusiasm. And when you expand that capacity and you make it your default, your basic, the universe has no choice but to give you and offer you everything that can help you feel more sensual, more abundant, more like a queen, like a goddess. Everything that doesn't allow you to know, be, perceive, and receive that. Right and wrong, good and bad, what profiling, shorts, spice, pivots, and beyonds. Thank you, Vineet. Shri Kala, welcome, darling. When she ignores her pleasure, a woman can mistake her purpose and believe that her function is to enslave herself to her job or live only to serve her husband, her kids, her family. This misapprehension can turn into life where she is utterly starved for pleasure. She can waste her life in a perpetual state of anger and resentment towards said job, husband, kids, and family, or anywhere else she has devoted herself in hopes of fulfillment. The omission of pussy was created, a legacy, generations of women who lived as victims, always blaming others for our own unhappiness and not knowing how to generate joy, pleasure, and satisfaction of our own. The entire purpose is to allow a woman to completely reorganize her experience as a woman so that her pleasure becomes a priority. When she includes pleasure, she is able to connect with her most deeply held desires. She is able to live a life that is based on her dreams rather than the agenda that other people have for her. In the halls of SWA, she is able to meet the goddess within, to experience rapture, and to learn the tools that will allow her to connect with her joy and pleasure on a daily basis. When my cousin Hannah um, worked through the pleasure and continued to use the tools and arts in her life, she let her pussy lead. She's had a happier, more fulfilling life ever since. Even though it felt awkward and dangerous, Hannah picked up the phone and heard the call. The awkward and dangerous feeling comes from a piece of patriarchal inheritance that has both women and men associated the sensual with the pornographic. We have all been taught to suspect, vilify, and devalue the erotic. It has been a sign of female inferiority, weakness, and contempt. We have been taught that only if a woman can suppress her erotic nature is she truly strong and virtuous. But when we ignore or suppress that erotic nature, we accept the oppression of the patriarchal world culture. We reject the freedom, rapture, and radiance of the divine feminine, which I have come to think as the great pussy in the sky. Such was the case for my cousin Grace. She heard the call of the goddess, but the ring was so faint it was easy to overlook. Like when your cell phone is buried inside the pocket of your coat, under a huge pile on the bed down the hall at the Christmas party. It is just way too much effort to dig, so you let it go to the voicemail. So, are you listening to the call of goddess within you, or you are letting it go to the voicemail? And if you would truly take a moment to listen to your goddess, to listen to your pussy, and ask what you desire. I really imagine a stage where all of us come together and we have a mic and we just go out and talk about our desires loud. What is it that truly desire? Go out and talk about it, because a lot of us have buried those desires because we either feel that it cannot happen, or it's not time, or I don't have the resources, or why to desire if I'm gonna be disappointed anyways. And that's how you keep letting this voice go to voicemail. So allow your desires to show up, talk it out loud, and ask a question: what would it take for me to have that? And listen to your pussy, and you, my love, are goddess. You are the creator of your own reality, and nothing else matters. It does not matter what resources you have, where you are, what skill set you have, what platform do you use, what technology do you use, what tools to use. Even that doesn't matter. You are creating everything as source. You are the creator. And if you desire it, there is nothing that can stop you, and there's nothing that you don't have. You, my love, are the creator, and nothing else matters. So if you truly connect with your pussy and let this goddess come and shine and talk about it. I once had, like, even the recent client, um, and I believe I should start a marriage school of my own, where I now have quite trust in changing the dynamics when it comes to marriage or relationships a hell lot. Um, and she wanted to work on her marriage, and it was quite a gaslighting um, kind of a space that she was living in. And she was a housewife. She didn't had financial capacity a lot, like finances um in her own hand. And she wanted to work with me, and she wanted to change that, and she was so committed to changing it. It was like, I have to either divorce and move on and see what's, how do I live my life further, um or I want to give it and change what I have. And I quoted her my charges of that time. And sh and we kind of came on a 6 months agreement, but we kind of were very done in 4 to 5 months. Um, and she said that I won't be able to pay you in one go. I'll pay you in installments. And I and sh and the only thing I told her, don't get into how. You want it, it's gonna come. And I kept flowing money to her world, and the universe kept flowing money to her world. And she paid me in installments. And when her final installment was done, after that we started our program. She paid installments before the coaching began. And it was the month, like mid-month, like 15th. She paid her installment, and then we started from the next day itself, or 20th or something. And in 4 to 5 months, the entire dynamics changed, and um, she kind of generated that money back, in form of gifts from her husband, from her relatives, and much more than that. And if I go like 5 to 8 months back, it was so hard to see that, that future was so hard to see that for her. But my job was to believe in the goddess that I see, to believe in the capacity of her highest self, and to let her believe in the future where abundance and love are default. So, what if you make pleasure your default, love your default, abundance your default, a very, respect your default, and you create a space starting with your own body and your own pussy where love, pleasure, acknowledgement, receiving, abundance, respect, honoring, play is your default. And if you want to start with one thing, I'll love playing with these embodying practices, because it just allows you to feel it, feel through it also while you are in the journey of raising that vibration. Be that for your own self, starting with your pussy. And anything that you can imagine is possible. Because you're a fucking goddess. But what happens then? When we ignore our pussy reality, our pleasure, our erotic sense, our true nature, the gifts of the GPS, and the prioritizes the value of the PWC, we start to shrink. We are like the wicked witch of the West after an encounter with Dorothy's water bucket. A life force gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Everything in our world is disadvantaged because we are not present. Our truth is not present. Our desires are not present. And our desires are not present because the only way for a woman to connect with her desire is to connect with her pleasure. Pleasure is the jet fuel that makes desire a reality. Pleasure is the jet fuel that makes desire a reality. When a woman does not connect with her pussy, the lights go off inside of her and inside of her family and her world. A woman cannot do her job of being a woman without her sensual brilliance engaged. She is working with a 25-watt bulb instead of the 100 watts that are her birthright. The reason women lag from behind men at Harvard Business School and other top institutions is not lack of brains or abilities, but because we are living in a crisis of confidence. Just as I sought the goddess outside of myself, we women are looking for our confidence in the wrong neighborhood. We think we are flawed and we need to fix ourselves somehow. What we don't recognize is that the only thing we are missing is the sensual intelligence that comes from the connection to our very source. But can we really blame ourselves? We women learned to doubt ourselves by the time we were 5 or 6, and I get it. It applies to all of us. At that age, I had already decided that the goddess was something outside of me. I had pushed her into the periphery. Interestingly, it was around the same that I, like all other little girls in our culture, learned that my pussy was unspeakable. So, where must we go when we are finally ready to bring the goddess back into our lives? On center stage, where she belongs. To answer her call, no matter how faintly we can hear the ring. To master the womanly arts, which is also mastering one's own life. Why? Of course, we must go back to pussy. Homework. So there's a home play that I'll be reading. If you want, you can also write it down for you. The great pussy in the sky is my word for girl Jesus, girl Buddha, Miss Yawa, Lady Allah, etc. GPS for short, your inner divine. Because the GPS actually is our internal navigational device. For this exercise, you are going to become a great pussy in the sky researcher, a spy for the goddess. Grab a journal and pen and sit down for a few minutes. Record your feelings and responses as you begin this journey. Step 1. Okay, you may want to do it now. Imagine walking into your favorite house of worship. Do you notice any signs of GPS, great pussy in the sky? Is there an equal share of she and he? Do you feel a balance between the masculine and the feminine? Do you think it is important? Record what you notice in the journal. How do your discoveries make you feel? Do you feel included, excluded, happy, sad, indifferent, angry? So starting, maybe we can start with our own bodies as the temples and see, are we included? Have we included our masculine and feminine both? Are we happy? Are we sad? Are we indifferent? Are we angry? Step 2. Do you experience the GPS anywhere in your life? If so, where and when? Is she in nature, in other people, at your workplace, in the presence of a new baby, in the arms of your lover? Whatever you discover, it's all good. Just take notice. So when it is a time when you experience turn on in your life, When you feel like, wow, my pussy is in the sky. Keep a note of that. Step 3. What were you taught about being a woman from your mom, other family members, the culture at large? What did your religion teach about womanhood? Was it exciting to think about becoming a woman? Discouraging? Neutral? Oh, a lot of us, it was discouraging. Everything that brings up a list down right and wrong, good, bad, but for calling shots, provides boys and beyonds. Step 4. What does femininity mean to you? Do you feel feminine? And when and where do you feel most feminine in your life? Or do you feel more masculine? Where and when do you feel most feminine in your life? Yes, Vineet. I see your hands raised. Yeah,
Yeah. So, how much of this stands true for a male as well?
you tell me.
What? Uh, to a great extent, right? About sexuality is feminine, is masculine as well, right? So, uh, you drive things, you conduct things with pleasure, and pleasure is for both. So, question is, how can you be turned on every time uh, throughout? Is it the bodily thing that keeps you turned on every time, or is it because most of the time you are engaged in some work, some or the other work, right? Which also keeps your brain engaged. So, um, you know, what drives you to be turned on every time? Is it that you love your job, and I'm sure that you do. I can see that, and then you bring in the bodily thing as well together. So is it a vice versa as well, or does it go hand in hand? So if all of my days, if I'm loving that I do, my pleasure will come to my body automatically. Are you getting me? So so that takes me, if that's true, that takes me to something else, that uh, to basic question that do we love our jobs or work that we have to do? Could be a family thing for women, or household work or whatever, or a job or a business, whatever. That's true.
Yeah. And thank you for asking that question, Vineet. I hear your question that, and somewhere I hear that you are working throughout the day using our brain so engaged. It feels difficult for you to feel turned on that time. And you have a point of view that if I I love my job, then maybe I'll feel turned on. But if I do not love and I'm working out of, a necessity in some ways, then I will not feel turned on. And my question to you is, so first of all, what does turn on means? Turn on is is a bodily experience, but it is not just a bodily experience. It's actually the feeling of that aliveness, feeling of that enthusiasm intact in your body. It's actually feeling in your power, in your capacity. Um, it's it's also, it does not mean that you won't be sad or you won't be frustrated, you won't be angry, but you will be knowing that I have the capacity to move through these emotions, and you know you still feel turned on when you're crying and you're in your shitty most moment. And the question that you asked is, starting with the first question, that when your brain is engaged, can you feel turned on? So my question here to you is that when you are using your brain to accomplish something, does that turn you on? And if
No,
you're
not. Mm.
and if you have made your job as the source for making you turn on, feeling you turn on. And if your job is not the source, and it is you, the source, who can turn that switch on, and you are not dependent on external circumstances. So right now you're thinking that maybe if I have a different job, maybe if I have a different life, maybe if I have a different house or a different wife or a different partner, I feel turned on. But it is not. So you are the creator and nothing else matters. So it is not dependent on anything that's happening outside. You can turn that, you can have that turn on in your own body, in your own being. You can step into your greatest power and capacity. And we had a beautiful, yeah. You can be connected to the life force within you and the sense of aliveness within you. And when you are being that energy and being in that space, you can shift, what your job can look like. You can shift what your relationship can look like. You can shift what else outside can look like. And even if whether you're using brains into it, whether you're using body into it, whether you like it or not like it would not matter to you. A turn on can be, I was in a very shitty space and here is my job. And for the next 2 hours, I'm going to be fully focused into it and give my entire body being to it and see what happens. And it doesn't care whether I like it or not. And some people can be fucking turned on by that. I'm not saying you have to do it, but when turned on is not a result, but when turn on is, when turn on is the source itself. We kind of assume pleasure as a result of doing something. Okay, when you get into an intercourse, when you'll play with your clitoris, when you will do something, then you'll feel orgasmic and pleasurable. You will. But the real turn on and real pleasure happens when you are already being that, when you're already so turned on, when you're already so alive, when you're already so excited. And then you engage into an intercourse or sex or with anybody or with your own self. You feel it to another level. And now you're not dependent on the other partner to give it to you or the job to give it to you or something else to give it to you. So you are the source of your own pleasure and turn on. They've got a new mantra. Thank you, Vineet. Did
I
I
feel a lot of heart. I'm not done yet. I'm never done yet.
It's hard to please this man, huh?
Yeah.
Tell me, Ma.
But yeah, great women have the tricks. So yeah. Um, so I know what you're saying, and I have seen myself being highly into. When I say turned on, I definitely mean, high on life, high on into, and things are automatically falls in place. You have the reception on, you're receiving it right, your receiving goes high. You feel that vibe, you feel that energy. Like while I'm talking to you, I can get into that high zone. So maybe it's the company that you are around with or things that, so I'm still in figuring it out, what works for me and what I can amplify every time so that I create greater and receive more and more. Now there are situations, there are times, there are moments when I get drained out, I get dull. It doesn't mean that nobody gets drained out, nobody energy is low. I understand all that crap or thing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I can't figure it out yet. What has drained me out and how can I lift myself back? That there are moments where very difficult for me to lift that back and to reach that turn on, that orgasm in my life. Um, so it's like 20% I receive it and 80% is missing in a way. Like maybe 10 days, 2 days I'm high, 8 days is missing. That's the number if I have to put it up. Krishna is smiling. It's okay. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Vineet, and your vulnerability. So the first, when whatever you were saying, what I was getting is that you are still you're looking for a partner to play with. Um so you're looking to partner with, first you tried it with your job, it didn't work out. Then you tried with maybe something else and it didn't work out. And then you tried with people you are living with and it didn't work out. Um, so I'm gonna give you a partner that is gonna be there with you, no matter what. And it's gonna be your body. So
Yeah.
if you find that partner in your own body and find ways to prioritize the relaxation, prioritize the because I'm also seeing that you're also lifting it and dragging through it. And we kind of a lot of times, just put a lot of stress uh, over our own bodies to be able to feel something. While if you imagine your body as a partner in pleasure and you start playing with your own body like that, where say you for example, what would friendship or what would making love to your body would look like is my question to you. And when there are days that you are dull, when you don't want to get out of bed, and there are days with me too, everybody has those days. What if those days and that frustration or that dullness does not limit your love making with your own body? Those are the days when I make the most love to my body, when I'm dull, because now I have nothing to do. I'm like lying on my couch and I'm like, I'm I'm mostly spending the larger part of my day crying my eyes out or just, watching something. So I'm giving my body like the massage, sometimes just, be able to express those emotions, sometimes dancing like crazy and stupidly, and sometimes just lying and giving that rest that it has been asking for. So the 8 days that you have defined as not so good, what if those are your good days and those are the times when you can actually make love? And what would that look like? And that will pull whatever you are trying to pull, like, whatever you truly desire out of it. That will create that for you. Because your body will know that I love it, that I love having into pleasure, that I love my own company, that I love being touched, that I love being cared for. And it will pull people, possibilities, and opportunities to feel it more and more and more. And
Yeah.
sometimes it can also ask you to go to a get together and go to a party because that's what is
Yeah.
fun, it's pleasurable right now.
Yeah. The day before yesterday, I was feeling that. So, by my own self, I still don't know what, what I can do during that time to lift my back self. I just need somebody, some company. So I went for a bars swap and, I felt better after that to talk out and speak out. So maybe that's one I think I figured it out. But with your own body being your partner, your friend, and doing things out solo, um, maybe in future. Why not?
Until you wouldn't learn how to please your own body and be that partner to your own body, nobody else can. So
Hmm.
fill yourself with it, then everybody would want to add to it. But when you will be in lack of it, then nobody would be able to fill that lack. So it's an interesting play to play and see how does that converts. And I'll be happy to discuss more and talk more
Yeah.
play with it.
Thanks.
Basically, it is something like we are always using this mask, we are always pretending on the conscious level of our mind. We are always trying to be someone. And then there are those days when we are like, oh, I'm tired. Why I need to pretend, why I need to be that person. And then we just want to be ourselves. That's why maybe we feel dull, because dull means we do not have energy on the conscious level. But at the same time, that energy is there in the subconscious and spiritual conscious level. So if we can actually connect to ourselves emotionally, then we can access that. And then we just feel happy. For introvert people, it's more easy. It's easier. But for extroverts, maybe going to bar or somewhere, that is again the easiest way to do that.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for
yeah,
saying
if
that. Yeah. And so when you actually be with your body, you will let your emotions, let that frustration, let that anger come out. Let your body feel and rest with it rather than dragging it through the mud.
Sorry,
Um, and it just
my bad.
puts
Avoid that. Just to interrupt.
it puts the energy back into the system. Um, and that's so true, Acharya. And on the same thing, I would like to add that wherever we have defined ourselves as something, and going on a date itself, somewhere we've also defined ourselves as something. So I was playing with this activity where, I was in a session, I was once being a wild woman. And then I was being a huntress and I was fighting and I was like, being that huntress and finding a shikar and killing it, and all of that rage was so heavy for me that I felt so tired after it. I was like, oh, I cannot do it anymore. And at the same time, after that, I went into a lover and I went into another archetype. And I felt so easy and I felt so, just amazing doing it. Um, but at the same time, also realized that, okay, all of these different faces are me only. I don't have a face to put. All of the faces are me. And it's a role play that I'm doing in different spaces and different times. So, it's a Leela. And I'm just in the Leela. Sometimes being a Radha or sometimes being Kali, sometimes being um, Chandi, sometimes being Meera, and sometimes being Sita, and sometimes being a warrior, Rani Lakshmi Bai, and I can fucking be anything. So when I stopped giving myself a fixed identity, um, but I also knew what I was being. So it gave me an opportunity to also, like, when I'm being a lover, I know I'm being a lover. And I'm not a warrior anymore. I don't have to fight. So I was being that. So it's important to be aware of the way Acharya said that. Be aware of who your true self is right now, but also not conclude it. So when you're going to an office and you have to be a huntress or a warrior, you are being that because now in this moment you are that energy. So you
actually
also
that's why finding a lover is also a challenge, because when we say lover, generally we think about Laila Majnu and Heer Ranjha, all of that. But actually, like, it can be something we do with ourselves, like self-love making, or it can be with someone. But the condition is that that person can see, love, and accept who we truly are. Maybe in those times we are not able to see our true self, but that person is. Then it is good to be in the company. Or maybe for general people, that is okay, because we all cannot go to Samadhi, we all not go to Kaivalya level. So, yeah,
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it's true. Like even when you're in your warrior self, the other person knows that, beyond this role that she's playing, I know who the being is, who Sonali is. You know, even if I'm being a warrior, the kind, compassionate, the loving, um, that my own self is still there. You know, even if and that's why it's so easy for me to be all of these archetypes without any shame or guilt. Because I know I'm playing a role. You know, I'm in a movie and I'm playing a role. And the moment this role ends, I'm not that. This is not me. I'm just playing a role. So even when you go into your um, role play in your bedrooms, you know that you are not it. You are just playing a role. Thank you. And I'll quickly finish this because we're already past time. Step 5. What is being a woman to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy being a woman? What do you not enjoy? Extra credit. Over the course of this book, your viewpoints and experience with the material are likely to transform in unexpected ways. As a committed journal keeper myself, I suggest you keep a journal of your journey with Pussy. Journaling is a really good practice. 6. Thank you, Shalini. It helps you digest your feelings and keep in touch with yourself. At the least, very least, bookmark this page and come back to this exercise after you have finished reading the book. Awesome. Tomorrow we'll be reading. Okay, tomorrow we won't be reading. Now we'll be reading on Monday, most probably. And we'll be reading Reclaiming Pussy, Chapter 2. It's a good book, so I think I'll be reading important topics from now.
I would like to share something here. Shanal, ऐसे वो गीता में है ना कि वो अभिमन्यु अपनी मम्मी के पेट में वो 7 क्या है वो वर्ड याद नहीं है, वो पार
चक्र,
करके फिर हाँ चक्रव्यूह. सो लाइक ऐसा लग रहा है आपकी बुक रीड रिसीविंग फ्रॉम मैन orgasm awakening program and this book, वो सारे एक बार टर्न बाय टर्न हुए हैं ना. सो ऐसा काफी क्लियर जैसे लग रहा है और अच्छे से समझ में आ रहा है. नहीं तो कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कोई भी टॉपिक हो ऊपर से जाता है, समझने में टाइम लगता है, रिसीव कर लेते हैं एनर्जी लेकिन वो समझ में नहीं आता है. सो ऐसे बस आप गुड़ खिला रहे हो और बस मुंह में पिघल रहा है ऐसा लग रहा है. सो लाइक थैंक यू सो मच.
And you have a very unique capacity when it comes to pleasure and sensuality. I hope you know that and create more with that. Thank you. Thank you for being that energy.
Thank you so much.
Shalini, love you. Shalini, if you want to talk, we can talk just right after this call. Have a lovely weekend, you all. Lots of love. I'll be having Receiving from Men call on 24th of November. If anybody want to join, it will be 2.5 hour call. And we'll be talking about Anjali's here. Thank you. All the blocks that you have from receiving from men, so that you can remove those blocks and tap into your capacities with feminine and receive men and masculine in the world. So we'll be having this call for all women. I've also opened up my, it's not that Anjali, but yeah, I would love to see the face. I've also opened my one-on-one sessions. I'll be only taking 2, I think 2 to 3, but mostly 2 people. Oh, hi Anjali. Starting January. Good to
Hi
see you.
all. Yeah, I'm sorry, I am almost cooking when we have this call, and then I
No worries.
drive down to feed dogs, so I don't come online, you know. But yeah, the time is clashing. Yeah.
If anybody wants to work with me one-on-one, I'll be able to help you see your problems in a more simpler way, be able to guide you to a path to solve that problem and create, whether it is your business or your relationship, create a reality that you might not believe in, but it's totally going to happen. So I take clients for 3 to 6 months. And what else? Yes. I'll be having Orgasmic Awakening Program, Wild Women Program next season coming from 10th of December. And I'll be having an offline class on 9th of December in Mumbai. So if somebody's in Mumbai, ping me, I'll keep you in the loop and you can join the offline class as well. All of this is here. I also have Shaktiverse founding member certification open for people who have done orgasmic awakening while women class or any class with me. So yes, all of this is here. I would love to have you become your Shakti self and shine your goddess all out there in the world and create much more money, much more receiving, much more love and abundance on the planet. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Monday.